This is a CBC podcast.
Are you saying that it's possible that this high-profile arrest could be what tips us into a recession?
I really don't think the answer is banning things.
He's backed himself into a corner here.
Yep.
I love Canada, by the way. I have so many friends.
And Justin Trudeau at one point said,
Although you're getting marriage proposals already.
Lucky me.
Hello, I'm Jamie Poisson. This is Front Burner, CBC's daily news podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. This is me shooting. Oh, wow, I just shot myself.
You killed yourself in like 10 seconds.
Anine Jain, how are you?
Gonalonkwa, which is I love you.
Agamemok. Keep going.
Diane today for Don't Touch.
This is First Words, an Indigenous language podcast by Unreserved.
Yat-e, which is a greeting.
Miigwech, which means thank you.
Éile ceastachla nath na moiúd. Nugwa am glakwoth. Nugwa am Trish Rosborough. Iachala lacha University cha Victoria. Gaiuchlin lacheda Kwak'wala. Gaiuchlin lach tsakis. Ola galan mutla gache Kwak'wala la och a wheat na guisa ka éile la kwangan gluida senchasen likwala lle. Chat ka gilaman Kwak'wala. Kwak'wala exten. So I just said greetings to all who I am one with. My name is Kwak'wala. My English name is Trish Rosborough, and I work at the University of Victoria. I come from the Kwak'wala people. I come from a place called Tsakis, and I'm really grateful to live on the lands of the Lekwungen and the Senchatan-speaking peoples. I speak a little Kwak'wala. So my whole life I wanted to be a Kwak'wala speaker. And as a child, I would go and spend time with my grandparents, and they would say, this year we're only going to speak Kwak'wala. But because the human desire to communicate is so strong and they could speak English, we would default to English really quickly. I really started to devote myself to learning Kwak'wala in about 2009. So just about 10 years ago. I'll let you know I'm just about 60. So, I was an adult. I was a grandmother when I really started to actually learn Kwak'wala and to start to speak it. Speaking Kwak'wala for me is, it's important because it's the essence of who we are as Kwak'wala people. I just see our language is so important to our identity, both our outward identity, so the way we express ourselves to the world, but also to my inner identity, so how I see the world, how I understand the world through my language. It really is the way I say, I'm a Kwak'wala person, I come from Tsakis, this is what makes me me. Yeah, so Kwak'wala is the language of the northern part of Vancouver Island and the adjacent mainlands and some of the islands in between. There's about 15 Kwak'wala-speaking communities, and the estimate is that we have about 2% first language speakers. The good news is that we have about 12% of our people actively learning the language, so fully engaged in doing what they can to bring language back to their everyday lives. At this time, we know that we have so few first language speakers that to do the work well, we really want to engage in it now while we have the opportunity to be with those first language speakers. I think the presence of language in our community strengthens us as a people. So in my family home, I heard Kwak'wala, but it was not the language that I was required to speak. I understood some things, and some things my mother would use to speak to us in a way in secret. So if we were misbehaving in public, she would quietly speak Kwak'wala to us to teach us to behave. And sometimes the Kwak'wala I heard was a mix of English and Kwak'wala together. So my mother would call us to the dinner table with a mix of Kwak'wala and English. She would say la'am, which is it is, and then she would say redia, which was her way of taking the word ready and Kwak'walaizing it. So la'am redia was often the way we got called to the dinner table. So today's Kwak'wala words of the day are Kwak'wala, Mutala, and Atli. I thought it would be nice to teach people a little bit about the word Kwak'wala because people living around Kwak'wala speaking people will often hear that word. It's a lovely word that can be used as a greeting, and we also use it to acknowledge somebody, to say thank you, or to welcome somebody. Mutala, I'd like to talk about Mutala. Mutala is a word that most people in our communities know, even if they're not fluent speakers. Mutala is a phrase that means to bring food home after a feast or an event. Mutala, I think, is such a lovely word because it's a concept. It's a value that we should always, when we're inviting guests, prepare enough food that people can bring food home with them. Yeah, so the third word I'd like to talk about is Atli. When I was starting my Kwak'wala journey and beginning 10 years ago to try to improve my Kwak'wala speech, I learned the word Atli. And I learned it from a resource that described the word Atli to mean forest. Atli, it has, a difficult sound in the middle there for English speakers to pronounce. And so I went to my Uncle Pete wanting to check my pronunciation to be sure that I was saying Atli correctly. I said, Uncle Pete, Atli, it means forest, right? And Uncle Pete was kind of quiet, and I was a little worried that I had said it wrong. And then he says to me, well, Atli, it can be used to mean the forest, but you have to think about where our homes are. Uncle Pete says, so you know how our homes were always on the beach, always facing the water. Atli is behind us. That story to me tells me that speaking Kwak'wala is not just about having translations of things I want to say in English and translate those into Kwak'wala, but that I can understand the Kwak'wala way of seeing the world, that we come from a world where the homes face the water, and that Atli, the forest, is behind us. My name is Trish Rosborough. My Kwak'wala name is Kwak'wala. Today's words are Kwak'wala, Mutala, and Atli.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.